Okay, hello everyone and welcome. So today we'll be discussing the plan for the market town. So I'll just introduce myself first. I'm Frankie Flower.
I'm Bailey Baker.
I'm Lee Licker.
I'm Georgie Grosser.
So I've just put together a proposed agenda for today, which was first advertising style and cost, maintenance cost, location, and then temperature. Is everyone happy to go with this agenda?
Yep, sounds good to me.
So,
We've also prepared a map of the proposed market garden, just for reference when we're talking about location.
so let's start with advertising style and cost. Obviously, this is really important to promote everyone in the shop. Does anyone have a really strong stance on this?
Yeah, so I'm really strong on this issue. So I think we should have separate advertising campaigns for each store, and I think it should be up to each owner how much they want to spend on their own advertising campaigns.
I'd be happy with this as well.
So I would prefer more of a combined advertising campaign, and this would mean that every owner will pay accordingly to the percentage of their market gross profits made.
I agree with that. I believe that we should do a collaborative advertising campaign. I believe that we are one marketplace and that we should advertise like that.
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of benefit to having separate advertising campaigns within the one overall market. I think advertising individually will allow us to reach 4 different groups of consumers, whereas I think advertising collaboratively will only attract people interested in a market garden. And I would really prefer that we have separate advertising campaigns. And I really think, each owner should be able to decide how much they spend on their store. And it's their store at the end of the day. I think it should be up to them.
I just think that we're here today to kind of maximise the outcome as a group as a whole, not just each store owner for themselves. And I think if we want to get the best agreement as possible, it would be better if we all work together and had a combined advertising campaign.
I agree with that, but I also think independent advertising will still draw in customers that will bring business to everyone as well, because we are all in an area that we're the only stores. There's not 20 stores, for example, where there will be easier to access some stores other than others for in means of the customers. So even though combined advertising will bring as a whole, I think independent will as well, because if someone's coming to visit the liquor store, they may walk past the florist and be like, oh, well, I grab a bunch of flowers while I'm here, kind of thing. So,
Well, if it's benefiting us anyway, if it's benefiting everyone anyway, why don't we just do it all together? Because we're not advertising it as like, yes, we're advertising, oh yeah, we're a marketplace, but we're also saying we have a liquor store, we have a florist, we have a baker and a grocer. We're not just saying, oh, come to our marketplace.
Yeah.
So it's still going to benefit everyone anyway.
Yeah, I just think, while it's great that we're planning to come together in Market Town, I think, we are individual business owners, and I think we should be able to have separate advertising campaigns. We want our stores to be successful, as for the market as well. But I really think separate advertising campaigns is important and what's best for the market town.
Well, this seems to be a bit of a controversial topic, so do we want to maybe revisit this at the end?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, so if we move on to maintenance costs, if anyone wants to start that one off, anyone has a preference? I can start off. So I think maintenance is really important because it minimises everyone's expenses. And so in saying this, I think that the cost should be shared out based on the percentage of the floor space occupied. I think that'll be the most fair way to do it.
I disagree. I think that each store is going to incur different maintenance costs throughout different periods of operation. Something, for example, might break in my store that I don't think everyone else should have to expend, and vice versa. Which is why I think individual maintenance cost plus a percentage of the common area is how we distribute maintenance.
Yeah, I think each business will have their own individual costs, whether that be baking stalls or wine fridges. In my instance, you've got lots of machinery, obviously, as do you. And I think the as you were saying before with the collaboration you're proposing, I think having an equally shared maintenance expenses for the shared common area, I think that would be good, because I think we all derive benefit from that.
I just don't think it's worth my while paying a percentage of the common area if I won't really be needing to use it. Florists buying flowers is more of a spontaneous purchase, so I don't think my customers will really be in the common area, so I don't think I should be paying for that.
I do think, though, that we can't guarantee that they're just your customers. They might be all of our customers. So we don't know who's going to be using the common area, and it is something that we all would be using. So I do think that we should we should all pay for our own maintenance costs, because I don't want to be paying for her machinery if it's breaking down, and you guys don't want to be paying for my machinery if it's breaking down. So I feel like we should all pay our own maintenance costs, and then we should share the common area.
And it also might bring up disputes later on while our businesses are running, if we have problems with deciding how many of our customers are using the common area, especially during different seasons, might bring different number of customers to each of our stores, which I think could spark some disagreement later on, which we probably can't afford, given we're always going to be working in close proximity and we want to maintain friendly relationships with each other. So
because when it's like Valentine's Day or Mother's Day, heaps of people are going to be visiting the florist, so they'll be in the common area.
I think the common area needs to be maintained. It needs to be pristine, look nice, because that's something that's going to attract customers for everyone, I think, and encourage spontaneous purchases, I think, within the market. So I think having that equal, I think your point about preventing future disputes is an excellent one. I think that's definitely something to consider.
Yeah. Well, as much, it's not my first preference, but my main priority here is to just maximise the outcome as a whole. And I can see that everyone really wants a percentage of the common area in maintenance costs. So if everyone agrees on it, I'll be willing to compromise on maintenance costs.
So in this instance, we've agreed upon each business is paying their own costs and to equally share the maintenance expenses related to the shared common area?
Yeah.
Okay, I will write that down.
Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is location. So location is very important to me as a florist, as florists are mainly spontaneous purchases. People don't usually come into a shopping centre to come to a florist. They usually see it and it's a spontaneous purchase. It's a very quick purchase. So in saying this, I really would like to have a small store near the entrance and at the front of the market town.
So in regards to the map, your preference would be to be...
Would be either A or D.
Okay.
Yeah. My preference is also next to the main entrance, but I think that that's a really good point, with that flowers are a spontaneous purchase, and I'd be willing to compromise my position for that reason.
Yeah, my preference will be towards the front of the market. However, I would be willing to compromise to be in either B or C. That's far enough to the front for me. On the condition I got to place a sort of a small stall for spontaneous liquor purchases, maybe towards the front of your store, Frankie.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. If you were willing to maybe do deals with each other, say if a customer went to your liquor store, they could maybe get a discount at my florist, or if someone purchased flowers from my florist, they could get a discount at yours. Because I feel our stores kind of go hand in hand when giving gifts. So I think that your small store at the front would actually be very beneficial for me.
So if I was to have the store there, we would do the sort of exchange thing like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. That would be okay with me.
Well, I would like A or be in position closer to the entrance, so either A or D. I feel like that I am the store that will have the most customers, and it's really convenient for them to come in through the main entrance, get their groceries, and if that's all they're there for, they can quickly get back to their car. It will also make it easier for my deliveries just to come straight through the main entrance, come into my store, so I can load them out quickly too. I feel like I will have the highest volume of sales, so I therefore think that I should have first preference and therefore be at the front of the marketplace.
Okay, so your preference would be for either A or D?
Yeah.
Correct.
If we were to propose the grocer in A, florist in D, with a small liquor store at the front of D, and liquor store in B and the bakery in C, would that work?
I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, that'd be okay for me. I'd prefer to be at the front, but I think with our arrangement, I can live with that. That works for you?
Agree with that? I agree
Yeah,
with
I
that.
agree with that.
Okay, so we have flour at position D, grocer at position A towards the front.
Would just quickly, you two want to be next to each other, given the deals that you're.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, sure.
would
So
you
I'll
prefer to
be in
take
position
there?
C. Yeah, that's okay for
Just
me.
if that helps with.
That's not
you
a
guys
problem.
doing
So
the
I'll be in
deals.
position C with a stall within Frankie's shop, and
Yeah.
also our arrangements are at 20% off, vice versa discount for purchases.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'd be in position B
Yeah.
towards the back. No problem. Okay, I'll just write that.
I think that works out because we're both food places
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
So moving on, we'll be discussing temperature now. So you want to start off with temperature?
My optimal temperature would probably sit around 19 degrees. This is pretty important for my business given I'm selling fresh baked goods and my bakers need to be in an area that is comfortable for them given the heat coming from the ovens and it being a safe work environment for them as well.
My optimal temperature would be 20 degrees. I run a grocery store. I have fruit and veggies that need to be preserved. If I don't have the optimal temperature, then they can go off. I won't be able to sell them. I'll have to continuously order new produce in. I've done some research, and according to the World Health Organization, room temperature is an average of 20 degrees. And according to these charts, to store vegetables, I should be storing them in a cool, dark place or at room temperature. To store fruits, I should also be storing them at room temperature. And then I also, according to this home storage guide, the optimal temperature to ripen food and to keep them preserved is 20 degrees. And then after that, I can put them in the fridge. But until they arrive, they need to be stored at room temperature at 20 degrees, or else I won't be able to sell them.
Yeah. So I understand you guys need very low temperatures. However, my optimal temperature for my florist is at 26 degrees. And I've got a graph here that shows that at 25, 26 degrees, it's the most optimal temperature. Anything below or above that, it decreases significantly. So this is really vital for me, and I really want to push for the market town's temperature to be 26 degrees.
I think 26 degrees is quite warm just in general. We want to also consider the comfort of our customers, and I think a temperature between maybe 18 to 20 degrees is going to be that range for them, because in summer and when it's hot, we don't want to be bringing them into a hot environment, and the opposite for winter, and that if we want repeated customers, that if they come in and have a memory of being in an uncomfortable environment, then they might choose not to come back. And so having something that also considers their comfort is pretty important to the ongoing success of our market town.
Yeah, I think obviously the temperature as it's coming across is quite important to you guys. I'm happy to make a concession in this area and just go along with what you guys want. So yeah, I think that's okay for me.
Yeah, I agree with the comfort of the customers. No one wants to come into a hot place on a hot day, and no one wants to come into this really hot place and then be exposed to the cold on a cool day either. So we need to take that into consideration.
Yeah, I understand this, and I'd be willing to compromise to a temperature of 23, even though it's not my optimal temperature, if you guys were happy with this.
I just think for me, it will completely ruin my business. I can't sell produce to customers if it's off. I just can't do that. It's an occupational health and safety hazard. I can get customers sick. My reputation will be completely ruined. So if I'm selling fruit and veggies that aren't edible, then what's the point of having a grocery store in the marketplace in the first place? If they're coming into a marketplace that's fruit and veggie store is dodgy, they're not going to want to come into the marketplace at all. So all in all, it might affect everyone.
That's similar with me for, in particular, my OH&S for the bakers and my store getting extra hot during the times that I am baking, along with the longevity of my baked goods throughout the day. The temperature is really going to affect that and my ingredients, and I don't want to be making my customers sick and getting that reputation of not having fresh goods.
Yep. So I'm kind of getting the idea that a compromise won't really work in this situation, because if I go too low with my temperature, my flowers will not last and they won't appear good, and if you guys go too high, it's an OH&S issue. So I understand that I'm again the only one that's opposing your guys' temperature, so I've done some research and I am able to get heaters in my store that could bring me up to the optimal temperature. However, I ask that if I am compromising on this, since I've also compromised on maintenance, I really want to push for the combined advertising campaign.
So you'd be willing to accept a temperature of 20 degrees?
I'm happy to sit on 20 degrees.
Yeah, I'm happy
That
to
works.
send it.
Okay, let me just write that in. So 20 degrees temperature for the market town. Or you're going to revisit advertising now? Yeah. So I feel like I've made a lot of concessions in this negotiation. I've conceded on temperature, conceded on location being towards the back. I feel like I've also conceded a bit on the maintenance costs. It's really important to me that there's separate advertising campaigns for each store, with the amount spent up to each other. That's really important to me. And, I'd encourage that. I've shown goodwill in making concessions for the health of the market, and I'd encourage the same.
I'm willing to compromise, even though it's not in my best interest at all. We obviously want to maintain a good relationship between all of us. So if you want to do the individual marketing campaign for the first 12 months, and then we can revisit it, and then we might go into more of a collaborative approach once we're more of an established marketplace. That's where I stand on that issue. It is not good for me at all. But since you have all compromised on the location and the temperature for my store, I'm willing to compromise on the advertising.
Frankie, would you be willing to agree to a separate advertising campaign for the first year and then revisiting it to maybe look at a collaborative approach?
I do think this is possible. However, I just think that I've compromised on quite a few things. I've compromised on temperature, maintenance, and advertising. So I just wanted to propose one last thing. Since I'm paying for heaters in my store and I'm not getting my optimal temperature, if maybe I could be dismissed from the maintenance cost of a percentage of the common area.
So the common area expenses will be shared between us three.
Yeah. If that's possible, I'm willing to compromise and have independent advertising campaigns.
Yeah, I would be on board with that. Georgie?
Yeah, I'd be on board with that.
Bailey?
Yeah, I can compromise on that.
Then I'm happy with everything else.
Yeah, sure thing. Let me just write that in and then we'll review what we've negotiated. So in regards to the advertising, we've agreed to pursue a separate advertising campaign for each store with the amount spent up to each individual store owner, which we will then revisit in a year. For the maintenance, each businesses will pay their own costs, but Frankie will be exempt from the maintenance expenses related to the shared common area. Those expenses will be shared between us three. As for the location, do we still have that? Frankie will be in position D at the front, Georgie A to the front, Baker to the back of B, C for liquor, and then I would have a stall for spontaneous purchases in Frankie's shop. And we were going to look at doing a 20% off both ways with purchases in our stores. For the temperature, we'd agreed to do 20 degrees for the market town. And that's it. Does that sound okay with everyone?
Yep. As long as I'm able to have my heaters
Yep.
at 25
Yep.
degrees.
Sure thing. That's all good. Well, great negotiation, everyone.
It's been a pleasure doing business.
Likewise.